Good morning. This is Joanne. Welcome to our final week of summer reading. It's so different doing this without kids with us. I think it would have been a lot more enjoyable for all of us if we could have had you with us, but there's always next year. Okay. This week's theme is common threads, I believe. And when my sister and I were teenagers, we used to heckle the foolie out of our parents. My father was a bit of a clown. My mother was a very serious woman. But we knew we could get her to laugh if we came up with something goofy or funny enough. And I guess I was maybe 15, 16 when I came up with Patrick. It was always my job to set the table. And I set the dishes down, and there was an extra place. And my mother said, "Who's that place for?" "Well, it's Patrick." "Who's Patrick?" "Patrick's coming to dinner." And of course, I proceeded to chat with Patrick at dinner and put food on his plate. And my mother was, "You're so silly." My sister used to take things like if we had a roast or something, she would take it and freeze it in an ice cube. And she'd put it in something cold my dad was drinking. And because he was a bit of a clown, he'd look at it and he'd stir something up, tea or something, and he'd go, "All right," because he was a native New Yorker. "All right, whose funny idea was this?" And then he couldn't help it. He'd have to laugh. But Patrick lasted for years. He was the imaginary dinner guest. And today, I am going to read to you from Crenshaw by Catherine Applegate. I love this book. And you'll know why my lead-in why we're reading this book. I noticed several weird things about the surfboarding cat. Thing number one, he was a surfboarding cat. Thing number two, he was wearing a t-shirt. It said, "Cats rule, dogs drool." Thing number three, he was holding a closed umbrella like he was worried about getting wet, which, when you think about it, is kind of not the point of surfing. Thing number four, no one else on the beach seemed to see him. He'd grabbed a good wave and his ride was smooth. But as the cat neared shore, he made the mistake of opening his umbrella. A gust of wind yanked him into the sky. He missed a seagull by seconds. Even the gull didn't seem to notice him. The cat floated over me like a furry balloon. I looked straight up. He looked straight down. He waved. His coat was black and white, penguin style. He looked like he was heading somewhere fancy in a hairy tuxedo. He also looked awfully familiar. "Crenshaw," I whispered. I glanced around me. I saw sandcastle builders and frisbee tossers and crab chasers, but I didn't see anyone looking at the floating, umbrella-toting surfer cat in the sky. I squeezed my eyes shut and counted to 10, slowly. 10 seconds seemed like the right amount of time for me to stop being crazy. I felt a little dizzy, but that happens sometimes when I'm hungry. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. When I opened my eyes, I sighed with relief. The cat was gone. The sky was endless and empty. Whap! Inches from my toes, the umbrella landed in the sand like a giant dart. It was red and yellow plastic, decorated with pictures of tiny smiling mice. On the handle, printed in crayon, were the words, "This bumbershoot belongs to Crenshaw." I closed my eyes again. I counted to 10. I opened my eyes, and the umbrella, or the bumbershoot, or whatever it was, had vanished, just like the cat. It was late June, nice and warm, but I shivered. I felt the way you do the instant before you leap into the deep end of a pool. You're on your way to somewhere else. You're not there yet, but you know there's no turning back. Chapter 2. Here's the thing. I'm not an imaginary friend kind of guy. Seriously. This fall, I go into 5th grade. At my age, it's not good to have a reputation for being crazy. I like facts. Always have. True stuff. 2 + 2 = 4 facts. Brussels sprouts taste like dirty gym socks facts. Okay, maybe that second one's just an opinion. And anyway, I've never eaten a dirty gym sock, so I could be wrong. Facts are important to scientists, which is what I want to be when I grow up. Nature facts are my favorite kind, especially the ones that make people say, "No way." Like the fact that a cheetah can run 70 miles an hour, or the fact that a headless cockroach can survive for more than 2 weeks, or the fact that when a horned toad gets mad, it shoots blood from its eyes. I want to be an animal scientist. I'm not sure what kind. Right now, I really like bats. I also like cheetahs and cats and dogs and snakes and rats and manatees. So those are some options. I like dinosaurs too, except for them all being dead. For a while, my friend Marisol and I both wanted to be paleontologists and search for dinosaur fossils. She used to bury chicken bone leftovers in her sandbox for digging practice. Marisol and I started a dog walking service this summer. It's called See Spot Walk. Sometimes when we're walking dogs, we'll trade nature facts. Yesterday she told me that a bat can eat 1,200 mosquitoes in an hour. Facts are so much better than stories. You can't see a story. You can't hold it in your hand and measure it. You can't hold a manatee in your hand either, but still. Stories are lies when you get right down to it, and I don't like being lied to. I've never been much into make-believe stuff. When I was a kid, I didn't dress up like Batman or talk to stuffed animals or worry about monsters under my bed. My parents say when I was in pre-K, I marched around telling everybody I was the mayor of Earth. But that was just for a couple of days. Sure, I had my Crenshaw phase, but lots of kids have an imaginary friend. Once my parents took me to see the Easter Bunny at the mall. We stood on fake grass next to a giant fake egg in a giant fake basket. When it was my turn to pose with the bunny, I took one look at his paw and yanked it right off. A man's hand was inside. It had a gold wedding ring and tufts of blondish hair. "This man is not a rabbit," I shouted. A little girl started bawling. The mall manager made us leave. I did not get the free basket with candy eggs or a photo with the fake rabbit. That was the first time I realized people don't always like to hear the truth. After the Easter Bunny incident, my parents started to worry. Except for my 2 days as mayor of Earth, I didn't seem to have much of an imagination. They thought maybe I was too grown up, too serious. My dad wondered if he should have read me more fairy tales. My mom wondered if she should have let me watch so many nature shows where animals eat each other. They asked my grandma for advice. They wanted to know if I was acting too adult for my age. She said not to worry. No matter how adult I seemed, she told them, I would definitely grow out of it when I became a teenager. A few hours after my Crenshaw sighting at the beach, he appeared again. No surfboard this time, no umbrella, no body either. Still, I knew he was there. It was about 6 in the evening. My sister Robin and I were playing cereal ball in the living room of our apartment. Cereal ball is a good trick for when you're hungry and there's nothing much to eat till morning. We invented it when our stomachs were grumbling to each other. "Wow, I would love a piece of pepperoni pizza," my stomach would growl. And then hers would grumble, "Yeah, or maybe a Ritz cracker with peanut butter." Robin loves Ritzes. Cereal ball is easy to play. All you need are a few Cheerios or even a little piece of bread all torn up. M&Ms would be good too, if your mom isn't around to say no sugar. But unless it's right after Halloween, you probably don't have any. In my family, those guys go really fast. First, you pick a target to throw at. A bowl or a cup works fine. Don't use a wastebasket because that might have germs. Sometimes I use Robin's T-ball cap, although that's probably pretty gross too. For a 5-year-old, that girl can really sweat. What you do is throw your one piece of cereal and try to make a basket. The rule is you can't eat that piece until you score. Make sure your target's far away or you'll finish your food too fast. The trick is that you take so long to hit the target, you forget about being hungry. For a while, anyway. I like to use Cheerios, and Robin likes Frosted Flakes. But you can't be picky when the cupboard is bare. My mom says that sometimes. If you run out of cereal and your stomach's still growling, you can always try chewing a piece of gum to distract yourself. Stuck behind your ear is a good hiding place if you want to use your gum again. Even if the flavor is gone, your teeth get a workout. Crenshaw showed up. At least he seemed to show up while we were busy throwing my dad's brand cereal into Robin's cap. It was my turn to throw, and I got a direct hit. When I went to take out the cereal piece, I found 4 purple jelly beans instead. I love purple jelly beans. I stared a long time at those things. Where did the jelly beans come from? I finally asked. Robin grabbed the cap. I started to pull it away, but then I changed my mind. Robin is small, but you don't want to mess with her. She bites. It's magic, she said. She started dividing up the jelly beans. 1 for me, 1 for you. 2 for me. Seriously, Robin, stop kidding around. Where? Robin gobbled down 2 jelly beans. Fill them up, she said, which I figured meant, stop teasing me, in candy mouth. Aretha, our big Labrador mutt, rushed over to check things out. No candy for you, Robin said. You are a dog, so you eat dog food, young lady. But Aretha didn't seem interested in the candy. She was sniffing in the air, ears cocked toward the front door, as if we had a guest approaching. Mom, I yelled, did you buy some jelly beans? Sure, she called back from the kitchen. They're to go with the caviar. I'm serious, I said, picking up my 2 pieces. Just eat Dad's cereal, Jackson. You'll poop for a week, she answered. A second later, she appeared in the doorway, a dish towel in her hands. Are you guys still hungry? She sighed. I've got a little mac and cheese left over from dinner, and there's half an apple you could share. I'm fine, I said quickly. Back in the old days when we always had food in the house, I would whine if we were out of my favorite stuff. But lately we've been running out of everything, and I had the feeling my parents felt lousy about it. We have jelly beans, Mom, Robin said. Well, okay then, as long as you're eating something nutritious, said my mom. I get my paycheck at Rite Aid tomorrow, and I'll stop by the grocery store and pick up some food after work. She gave a little nod like she checked something off a list and went back to the kitchen. Aren't you going to eat your jelly beans? Robin asked me, twirling her yellow ponytail around her finger. Because if you want me to do you a big favor, I guess I could eat them for you. I'm going to eat them, I said, just not yet. Why not? They're purple, your favorite. I need to think about them first. You are a weirdo brother, said Robin. I'm going to my room. Aretha wants to play dress-up. I doubt that, I said. I held a jelly bean up to the light. It looked harmless enough. She especially likes hats and also socks, Robin said as she left with the dog. Don't you, baby? Aretha's tail wagged. She was always up for everything. But as she left with Robin, she glanced over her shoulder at the front window and whined. I went to the window and peered outside. I checked behind the couch. I flung open the hall closet. Nothing. Nobody. No surfing cats. No Crenshaw. I hadn't told anybody about what I'd seen at the beach. Robin would just think I was messing with her, and my mom and dad would do one of 2 things. Either they'd freak out and worry I was going crazy, or they'd think I was adorable that I was pretending to hang out with my old invisible friend. I sniffed jelly beans. They smelled not quite grapey in a good way. They looked real, they felt real, and my real little sister had just eaten some. Rule number 1 for scientists is this: there's always a logical explanation for things. I just had to figure out what it was. Maybe the jelly beans weren't real, and I was just tired or sick, delirious even. I checked my forehead. Unfortunately, I did not seem to have a fever. Maybe I'd gotten sunstroke at the beach. I wasn't exactly sure what sunstroke was, but it sounded like something that might make you see flying cats and magic jelly beans. Maybe I was asleep, stuck in the middle of a long, weird, totally annoying dream. Still, didn't the jelly beans in my hand seem extremely real? Maybe I was just hungry. Hunger can make you feel pretty weird, even pretty crazy. I ate my first jelly bean slowly and carefully. If you take tiny bites, your food lasts longer. A voice in my head said, "Never take candy from strangers." But Robin had survived, and if there was a stranger involved, he was an invisible one. There had to be a logical explanation. But for now, the only thing I knew for sure was that purple jelly beans tasted way better than bran cereal. The first time I met Crenshaw was about 3 years ago, right after the first grade ended. It was early evening, and my family and I had parked at a rest stop off a highway. I was lying on the grass near a picnic table, gazing up at the stars blinking to life. I heard a noise, a wheels-on-gravel skateboard sound. I sat up on my elbows. Sure enough, a skater on a board was threading his way through the parking lot. I could see right away that he was an unusual guy. He was a black and white kitten, a big one, taller than me. His eyes were the sparkly color of morning grass. He was wearing a black and orange San Francisco Giants baseball cap. He hopped off his board and headed my way. He was standing on 2 legs, just like a human. "Meow," he said. "Meow," I said back because it seemed polite. He leaned close and sniffed my hair. "Do you have any purple jelly beans?" I jumped to my feet. It was his lucky day. I just happened to have 2 purple jelly beans in my jeans pocket. They were a little smushed, but we each ate one anyway. I told the cat my name was Jackson. He said, "Yes, of course it is." I asked him what his name was. He asked, what did I want his name to be? It was a surprising question, but I'd already figured out that he was a surprising guy. I thought for a while. It was a big decision. People care a lot about names. Finally, I said, "Crenshaw would be a good name for a cat, I think." He didn't smile because cats don't smile, but I could tell he was pleased. "Crenshaw it is," he said. I don't know where I got the name Crenshaw. No one in my family has ever known a Crenshaw. We don't have any Crenshaw relatives or Crenshaw friends or Crenshaw teachers. I'd never been to Crenshaw, Mississippi, or Crenshaw, Pennsylvania, or Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles. I'd never read a book about a Crenshaw or seen a TV show with a Crenshaw in it. Somehow, Crenshaw just seemed right. Everybody in my family was named after somebody or something else. My dad was named after his grandpa. My mom was named after her aunt. My sister and I weren't even named after people. We were named after guitars. I was named after my dad's guitar. It was designed by a manufacturer called Jackson. My sister was named after the company that made my mom's guitar. My parents used to be musicians. Starving musicians is what my mom calls it. After I was born, they stopped being musicians and became normal people. Since they'd run out of instruments, my parents named our dog after a famous singer called Aretha Franklin. That was after Robin wanted to name her Fairy Princess Cutie Pie, and I wanted to call her Dog. At least our middle names came from people and not instruments. Orson and Mary Bell were my dad's uncle and my mom's great-grandma. Those folks are dead, so I don't know if they're good names or not. Dad says his uncle was a charming curmudgeon, which I think means grumpy, with some niceness thrown in. Honestly, another middle name might have been better. A brand new one that wasn't already used up. Maybe that's why I like the name Crenshaw. It felt like a blank piece of paper before you draw on it. It was a anything is possible kind of name. I don't remember exactly how I felt about Crenshaw that day we met. It was a long time ago. I don't remember lots of stuff about what happened when I was young. I don't remember being born or learning to walk or wearing diapers, which is probably not something you want to remember anyway. Memory is weird. I remember getting lost at the grocery store when I was 4, but I don't remember getting found by my mom and dad, who were yelling and crying at the same time. I only know that part because they told me about it. I remember when my little sister first came home, but I don't remember trying to put her in a box so we could mail her back to the hospital. My parents enjoyed telling people that story. I'm not even sure why Crenshaw was a cat, and not a dog or an alligator or a Tyrannosaurus Rex with 3 heads. When I try to remember my whole entire life, it feels like a Lego project where you're missing some of the important pieces, like a robot minifigure or a monster truck wheel. You do the best you can to put things together, but you know it's not quite like the picture on the box. It seems like I should have thought to myself, wow, a cat is talking to me, and that is not something that usually happens at a highway rest stop. But all I remember thinking is how great it was to have a friend who liked purple jelly beans as much as I did. A couple of hours after the mysterious jelly bean appearance during cereal ball, my mom gave Robin and me each a grocery bag. She said they were for our keepsakes. A bunch of our things were going to be sold at a yard sale on Sunday, except for important stuff like shoes and mattresses and a few dishes. My parents were hoping to make enough money to pay some back rent and maybe the water bill too. Robin asked, "What's a keepsake?" My mom said, "It's an object you treasure." Then she said, "Things don't really matter as long as we have each other." I asked what her and my dad's keepsakes were. She said probably their guitars would be at the top of the list, and maybe books because those were always important. Robert said she would bring her Lyle book for sure. My sister's favorite book in the world is The House on East 88th Street. It's about a crocodile named Lyle who lives with a family. Lyle likes to hang out in the bathtub and walk the dog. Robin knows every word of that book by heart. Later, at bedtime, my dad read the Lyle book to Robin. I stood at her bedroom door and listened to him reading. He and my mom and Robin and Aretha were all squished on her mattress. It was on the floor. The wooden parts were going to be sold. "Come join us, Jackson," my mom said. "There's lots of room." My dad is tall, and so is my mom, and Robin's mattress is tiny. There wasn't any room. "I'm good," I said. Looking at my family all there together, I felt like a relative from out of town, like I belonged to them, not as much as they belonged to each other. Partly that was because they looked so much alike, blonde and gray-eyed and cheerful. My eyes are darker, and so's my hair, and sometimes so is my mood. Emptied out, it didn't look like Robin's room anymore, except for her pink lamp, and the marks on the wall that showed how much she had grown, and the red spot on the carpet where she'd spilled cranberry apple juice. Robin was practicing her t-ball batting, and she got a little carried away. "Swish, swash, sploosh," read my dad. "Not sploosh, Daddy," Robin said. "Smoosh, splish, wash?" "Stop being silly," she said. She poked him in the chest. "It's swoosh, swoosh, I tell ya." Sorry, I lost my place. I said that I did not think a crocodile would enjoy taking a bath. I just read a whole library book about reptiles. My dad told me to go with the flow. "Did you know that you can hold a crocodile's jaws closed with a rubber band?" I asked. My dad smiled. "I wouldn't want to have been the first person who tested that theory." Robin asked my mom if I had a favorite book when I was little. She didn't ask me because she was pouting about my bathtub comment. My mom said Jackson really liked A Hole is to Dig. Remember that book, Jackson? We must have read that to you 1,000,000 times. That's more like a dictionary than a made-up story, I said. A brother is to help you, my mom said, which was a line from the book. A brother is to bug you, said Robin, which was not a line from the book. A sister is to drive you slowly insane, I replied. The sun was beginning to set. The sky was tiger-colored with stripes of black clouds. I have to get my stuff ready for the yard sale, I said. Hey, stick around, dude, said my dad. I'll read A Hole Is to Dig, assuming you could find it, that is. I'm way too old for that book, I said, even though it was the first thing I'd put in my keepsakes bag. Lyle, one more time, Robin said. Please, 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 please. Dad, I asked, did you buy some purple jelly beans? Nope. Then where did they come from? The ones in Robin's T-ball cap. It doesn't make any sense. Robin went to Kylie's birthday party yesterday, said my mom. Did you get them there, Sweet Pea? Nope, Robin said. Kylie hates jelly beans, and anyway, I told you they were magic, Jackson. There's no such thing as magic, I said. Music is magic, said my mom. Love is magic, said my dad. Rabbits in a hat are magic, said Robin. I would put Krispy Kreme donuts in the magic category, said my dad. How about the smell of a new baby, asked my mom. Kitties are magic, Robin yelled. Indeed, said my dad, scratching Aretha's ear. And don't forget dogs. They were still going at it when I shut the door. I love my mom and dad and usually my sister. But lately, they'd really been getting on my nerves. Robin was a little kid, so of course she was annoying. She'd say things like, what if a dog and a bird got married, Jackson? Or sing Wheels on the Bus 3,000 times in a row. Or steal my skateboard and use it for a doll ambulance. The usual little sister stuff. My parents were more complicated. It's hard to explain, especially since I know this sounds like a good thing, but they were always looking on the bright side, even when things were bad. And they'd been bad a lot. They joked. They acted silly. They pretended everything was fine. Sometimes I just wanted to be treated like a grown-up. I wanted to hear the truth, even if it wasn't a happy truth. I understood things. I knew way more than they thought I did. But my parents were optimists. They looked at half a glass of water and figured it was half full, not half empty. Not me. Scientists can't afford to be optimists or pessimists. They just observe the world and see what is. They look at a glass of water and measure 3.75 ounces or whatever, and that's the end of the discussion. Take my dad. When I was younger, he got sick, really sick. He found out that he has this disease called multiple sclerosis. Mostly he has good days, but sometimes he has bad ones when it's hard to walk and he has to use a cane. When he learned he had MS, my dad acted like it was no big deal, even though he had to quit his job, which was building houses. He said he was tired of listening to hammering all day long. He said he wanted to wear fancy shoes instead of muddy ones. And then he wrote a song all about it and called it the Muddy Shoes Blues. He said he might work from home, so he taped a sign on the bathroom door that said, Office of Mr. Thomas Wade. My mom put a sign next to it that said, I'd rather be fishing. And that was that. Sometimes I just want to ask my parents if my dad's going to be okay, or why we don't always have enough food in the house, or why they've been arguing so much. Also, why I couldn't have been an only child. But I don't ask, not anymore. Last fall, we were at a neighborhood potluck dinner when Aretha ate a baby's disposable diaper. She had to spend 2 nights at the vet's until she pooped it out. Poop in, poop out, my dad said when we picked her up. It's the cycle of life. The cycle of life is expensive, my mom said, staring at the bill. Looks like rent's going to be late again this month. When we got to the car, I came right out and asked if we had enough money for stuff. My dad said not to worry, that we were just a little financially challenged. He said sometimes it's hard to plan for everything unless you have a crystal ball and can see the future. And if I knew someone with a crystal ball, he would love to borrow it. My mom said something about winning the lottery, and my dad said if they won the lottery, could he please get a Ferrari? And she said, how about a Jaguar? And then I could tell they wanted to change the subject. I didn't ask any more hard questions after that. Somehow, I just knew that my parents didn't want to give me hard answers. And that's where we'll stop. It's a good ways into Crenshaw. This is a library book if you want to come in and borrow it and find out where Crenshaw came from and why he showed up again. You're more than welcome to. I hope you have a good rest of the summer, and maybe next year we'll have a much better summer reading. Bye-bye.